Good afternoon. It's Thursday, January 12th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting live from Jerusalem. The much-debated Paris Peace Summit, aimed at advancing Israeli-Palestinian peace, kicks off on Sunday, but neither of the two main players, Israel and the Palestinians, will attend. Representatives of some 72 countries are expected to participate in the summit, including outgoing U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. A French government spokesman said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas have been invited to come to France after the conference to be informed of its conclusions. Netanyahu declined the invitation, saying only direct negotiations will produce a solution. Abbas plans to visit France on the sidelines of the conference, but it is unclear whether he will meet with French President François Hollande during his stay. Members of the countries who will participate in the summit Sunday were presented with a draft of the conference's summary in which it was stated that they will not recognize any changes to the June 1967 borders, including Jerusalem, except for changes Israel and the Palestinians may agree upon. Those attending the summit are likely to call on Israel and the Palestinians to independently demonstrate thorough actions through genuine commitment to a two-state solution and refrain from taking any unilateral steps on the ground. For his part, the Prime Minister once again lashed out at the upcoming Paris summit today, calling it a complete Palestinian fraud under the sponsorship of France. Netanyahu made the comments at the start of a meeting with visiting Norwegian Foreign Minister Børge Brende at his office in Jerusalem. Brende said that his country will attend the conference and will make sure that it will yield a balanced outcome.
I mean, we're all faced here with a great challenge against the forces of terrorism that not only seek to destroy Israel, but seek, of course, to render any possibility of peace totally hopeless. There are other such efforts that render peace hopeless, and one of them is the Paris conference. It's a rigged conference, rigged by the Palestinians with French auspices to adopt additional anti-Israel stances. This pushes peace backward. It's not going to obligate us. It's a relic of the past. It's a last gasp of the past before the future sets in.
At a meeting with members of the foreign press last night in Jerusalem, Tzipi Hotovely, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, referred to the Paris conference as a wedding where neither the groom nor the bride are in attendance.
Next week, the Paris conference will discuss future peace agreement in the Middle East. One thing we all know for sure, this is not the way to reach peace agreements. Israel has a proven record of reaching peace agreements throughout only one formula: direct negotiation. Trying to avoid that is creating a very harmful illusion to the Palestinian side. Unfortunately, the only country that the pressure is on is Israel. The only country that says time after time, we call Abu Mazen to sit and negotiate. And Abu Mazen doesn't come because he wants the dynamics of internationalization of the conflict. That's the reason Israel says that the Paris conference will distance peace. It won't do anything in order to reach true and real peace in the region.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's choice for Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, stressed that Israel is the United States' most important ally. Speaking before a Senate confirmation hearing, Tillerson criticized the outgoing Obama administration for its handling of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, putting a spotlight on his likely predecessor, John Kerry. He said Kerry's recent speech regarding negotiations between the two sides was quite troubling and undermined the Israeli government's position in regards to future talks with the Palestinians. At the same time, the former CEO of ExxonMobil said he endorsed a two-state solution and denounced Palestinian terrorism as an obstacle to peace.
Well, Israel has always been, and remains our most important ally in the region. They're important to our national security. The UN resolution that was passed, in my view, is not helpful. I think it actually undermines setting a good set of conditions for talks to continue. The Secretary's speech, which followed that UN resolution, I found quite troubling because of the attacks on Israel and in many ways undermining the government of Israel itself in terms of its own legitimacy in the talks. I think in the Trump administration, the President-elect has already made it clear, and if I'm confirmed, I agree entirely with support. We have to recommit. This is in these statements I keep making about renewing and committing that we're going to meet our obligations to Israel as our most important strategic partner in the region.
I assume you support the U.S. position that has been in place since the 1940s to do what we can, even if it's hard, to promote a two-state solution in Israel and Palestine with a Jewish state of Israel and an independent state of Palestine living peacefully side by side, that is the dream that we hope for that region, and I assume that you support that.
I don't think anyone would take a position that they don't hope for peace in that area and for the issues to be ultimately resolved.
And peace within the context of a two-state solution, as was determined by the UN and has been the bipartisan policy of the United States since the late 1940s.
I think that is the dream that everyone is in pursuit of. Whether it could ever be a reality remains to be seen.
The ongoing police investigation into alleged wrongdoings by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu deepens. Today, MK Eitan Kabel told Army Radio he was called in to provide evidence concerning meetings between the Prime Minister and Arnon Moses, the publisher of Yediot Ahronot. Moses is expected to be questioned again by police in the coming days concerning recorded conversations he held with Netanyahu, and the Prime Minister allegedly pledged to advance legislation concerning the Free Israel Hayom newspaper if Moses agrees to give him more positive coverage in his newspaper. In other recorded conversations between the two, Netanyahu is said to have threatened Moses. Local media reports said Yariv Levin, Minister of Tourism, was questioned on the affair earlier in this week, and the Environmental Protection Minister, Zev Elkin, is also likely to be summoned for questioning by police, as well as other MKs. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's wife, Sarah, was questioned by police yesterday at the National Anti-Fraud Squad, Laha 433, where she was asked details concerning gifts that Netanyahu's allegedly received from Israeli-American producer Arnon Milchan. Police are currently probing two cases involving Netanyahu, one called Case 2000, which police have kept under wraps, and Case 1000, which deals with allegations that Netanyahu and his wife accepted expensive gifts from Milchan. Last night, Netanyahu once again rejected the allegations, repeating, "There will be nothing because there was nothing." The army uncovered a Hamas cyber unit in Gaza who succeeded in hacking into cell phones of soldiers and reservists with the aim of uncovering sensitive material, troop movements, and details of military bases. After receiving complaints from soldiers, the Army launched Operation Hunter's Network, identifying dozens of accounts on social networks operated with false or stolen identities. Known as catfishing, Hamas hackers set up fake profiles on social media using stolen photos of attractive women from Israel and abroad, many with Israeli-sounding names. Soldiers chatted online with the women, unaware of their true identity. After a connection was made, the soldiers were tricked into revealing information and asked to download applications such as WoW Messenger, SR Chat, and YeCall Pro that infected their phones with Trojan horse viruses. Once in, the Hamas hackers were able to monitor the movements of the soldiers even when their cell phones were closed. The Army announced yesterday no more soldiers have been infected with the virus, and those who were would not be punished. It is unclear if any sensitive information reached Hamas's hands. Joining us now from our Tel Aviv studio is cyber expert Dr. Tal Paval. Dr. Paval, thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Good afternoon.
The Army revealed it has uncovered a Hamas cyber plot who, by using fake identifieds, lured soldiers into a trap that enabled them to hack into their cell phones and retrieve information. How exactly does that work?
Well, it was very simple. As you mentioned, Hamas members create false Facebook accounts that were allegedly were of young, beautiful Israeli girls with local names. They lured those soldiers to have a friendship with them, to open the messenger, to chat with those soldiers in Facebook Messenger in quite good Hebrew. And then a next stage was they were convinced to install kind of a chat a video chat application that was created by Hamas members without the knowledge of those soldiers. And once the application was installed on those cell phone of those soldiers, this application, as you mentioned, this Trojan horse virus, gave the ability to the developers, to the Hamas members, to have full control or to gain access to the cell phones and to the information that was stored on those cell phones.
How can they be monitored when the cell phones are closed?
Well, we all know that it can be, our cell phone can be kind of a spy device. Even if the cell phone are closed because they have the internal batteries, they can send the location using GPS and cell phone. We have to know that, and this case is a very good example, that cellular phones can be tracking device and even spy tools, even if they are closed.
Dr. Paval, how big a part will cyber warfare play in the next war, for example?
No doubt. First of all, we saw that the cyber warfare can be a tool in the hands of nations, even in peace times. And we saw a few weeks ago, in the case of the last presidential elections in the US and the allegation of Russian involvement in cyber involvement in these elections, those situations in peacetime. And we saw also in case of crisis and wartime, and we saw it in the Russian annexation of Crimea. We saw it in cases of in Russian involvement, in physical involvement in Georgia, in Latvia. So, and even in our cases in Gaza, we saw it several times in Syria, in the hands of the rebels on one hand, and in the government, in the usage of the cyberspace of the Syrian government on the other hand. But this is different story. The most interesting thing is that the cyberspace can give ability to a weaker side to be in a kind of parallel situation, because no doubt that terrorist organization, they have no ability, kinetic or physical ability as much as an army. But in this cyberspace, in this digital area, they can create a fake, in this case, fake a Facebook account, and can create, they can alert the soldiers. And we saw what can happen. We saw that at the bottom line, some of them already make photographs of themselves, of installations, vehicles, and ammunitions, and they gave this information free without the knowledge, but they gave it to Hamas members.
Dr. Paval, we just have a short time left. I have one last quick question.
Yeah.
What can we do and what can be done to prevent cyber attacks?
No doubt to raise the awareness. I mean, if we received a conversation call, if we received friendship in Facebook, suggestion of people you may know, if we do not know who they are, what their intention, if we do not sure who the people is behind this Facebook profile, please do not accept this invitation. Please do not contact with those persons. We know how it began, and we now see what can be at the end of the line.
Dr. Tal Paval, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Overnight in the West Bank city of Hebron, in a joint operation with the Shin Bet Security Agency, the Army sealed off the largest weapons manufacturing facility found in the West Bank. The building was discovered by troops 3 weeks ago, hidden underneath a house in the city. At the time, the owner of the factory and his son were arrested and questioned. During last night's activities, security forces also arrested 8 Palestinian terror suspects. The operation is part of the ongoing crackdown on suspected weapons manufacturing facilities producing high-quality weapons that are purchased and used by Palestinian terrorists. Police today recommended that Sheikh Raed Salah, the head of the outlawed northern branch of the Islamic movement, will be indicted on grounds of incitement to violence and terrorism, as well as supporting activity in an illegal organization. Investigators from the police Lahav 433 unit said they have incriminating evidence to charge Salah, who is currently serving a 9-month jail sentence after being convicted of similar offenses. He is slated for release next month. In recent weeks, police have questioned Salah several times in connection to the latest allegations. The non-governmental organization, the Israel Project, is calling on people of all faiths to unite in condemning terrorism around the world in quite an original way. A truck covered with posters bearing the message of unity took to the streets of Jerusalem yesterday, visiting the site of Sunday's truck ramming attack at Amon HaNetziv, in which 4 soldiers were killed. In a show of solidarity for the various countries attacked by extremist groups, rabbis and pastors read prayers at the site in memory of the victims. The truck later traveled to the city of Tel Aviv, to the British, American, and European embassies, giving top diplomats and representatives the opportunity to express their own tributes.
We need to stand united against this rise of violent extremism, which we see across the region, which is undermining states, it's undermining societies. And for that, we need to make sure that political leaders on all sides work to promote tolerance, understanding, and bring hope back to people, that a peaceful solution is possible, it is desirable, and that violence and terrorism will never be tolerated.
Terrorism strikes everywhere. It reaches Jerusalem, Nice, Berlin, and I think this is the whole point. Nobody is secure from terror, irrespective of where we happen to be on the planet, and that's the reason why it's so necessary for all of us to show solidarity internationally and across border in fighting this despicable phenomenon that we so tragically have seen.
Learning the Arabic language is becoming increasingly popular in Israel. Arab-Israeli teacher Hanin Majadi identified the need after receiving numerous requests for help from Israeli students studying Arabic. She decided to offer 3-month courses in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Jaffa to those interested in studying the Arabic language. Each class has no more than 15 pupils, and rather than sitting inside classrooms, Majadi prefers to use non-traditional teaching methods, abandoning textbooks and taking her students outside into the real world, where they can practice the language while conversing on an array of topics, whether eating ice cream or watching a film.
She understands the context, which means we are not going to any exam, we are not really pupils. It's like some sort of an also fun and recreation for us. This is something that most of the people are doing for themselves. And she's very much connected to day-to-day life context. So it's more suitable, I think, for us, because she understands where we come from. And it's not too structured. It's very much aimed for day-to-day life.
I think it's absurd to live in this land and don't speak the 2 languages that the people speak here. As in the same way we expect from the Palestinians in Israel to speak Hebrew, I want to as well speak Arabic.
In medical news, some relief in sight for diabetes patients who suffer from pain in their feet. A new Israeli invention called medic shoes has been approved by the health ministry and is on the market. The shoes have the structure of the popular Crocs shoes, but are equipped with internal vibrators that work on the principle of acupressure and reflexology. The remote-controlled variable strength foot massage has been clinically proven to increase blood flow to the feet, providing pain relief, a decrease in tingling, and nighttime discomfort. Medic Shoes is the invention of Yafa Golan, who herself suffers from diabetes and was looking for a way to ease her pain. The shoes cost around 900 shekels and are going to be sold worldwide.
20% of diabetics suffer from discomfort in their legs and feet.
In local money matters, shares were down in the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange in end-of-week trading, while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the numbers. IBA weather team says temperatures tomorrow will be slightly cooler with a chance of light rain until the afternoon in the north and center of the country. Here are the highs and lows at home and abroad. And that's our broadcast for today. We'll be back on Sunday with all the latest news from Israel. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield wishing you a great weekend and Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.